something to share in either wisdom, story, or logic. And it's clearly amazing to hear all the differing missing links discovered by people unique to their own journeys and in how they have come to discover them. Together, we can help to build a bigger picture for a better future, for a brighter tomorrow. Let's stand united. Let's remove the veils and let's create a new world together. Are you that missing link? Join Jesse Hale on the Missing Link Talk Show as he helps to unveil the mystery through the unique wisdom and store of others.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome everybody here back to the Missing Link. Today we're excited to talk to someone who became a Christian in 1984 and his life has not been the same in such a positive way. He will share his experience and golden gems of info. He's a lifelong Albertan who has monitored the globalist agenda and movement since the mid-'80s. How are you doing today, Ron Vaillant?
Good. I just ran over to give a link to someone. Okay. Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah. And Jesse Howell is just rocking it with his show. He's turning out all kinds of good shows.
Yeah, super busy. Just keeping up, trying to get as much info. So you wanted me, so we're going to talk a little bit about spirituality, religiousness, I guess, faith. And you wanted me to kind of talk about my road first before you get into yours.
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, I guess, I mean, to share kind of like what your belief system is or you're searching or whatever, just so I personally can be more on board with where you're at, and then it'd help the whole thing here.
Okay, so I was born Catholic. My parents, baptized me. They weren't big into church at all, so I didn't get any of the religious indoctrination. I didn't go to First Communion. I didn't go to any Bible school, Bible studies. I didn't do any of that. We would go sometimes on Christmas or sometimes on Easter. We would go for, church that day, but that would be my extent of my kind of religious upbringing. And then when I was 17 or 18 years old, I met this girl, Sarah, who became one of my best friends. She's a social worker now, but at the time she was very, very Christian orientated and went to church all the time on Sundays, started to get me to go to church. So I was going to church with her quite frequently.
Is that
That's
Catholic,
when I
you said, or is that something
no,
else?
this would have been a Christian church, I believe.
Okay.
So and
okay.
So then I started to read the Bible every night, falling asleep to the Bible. This person begot to this person, begot to this person. And
How old are you then? Like
probably
20?
18, 19, 20 years old is when I started to search for, the truth myself.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do.
And then, started to just read as much of the Bible as I could, but it was very, very boring. And I couldn't, every night I would fall asleep to it. And, but I decided one night, I don't know if it was 21 years old, and I was going to maybe 21 or 22. I was going to adult upgrading school. And I got this guy that was an older guy. He drove me to Chestermere Lake. And it was probably about 1 a.m. and I decided I wanted to baptize myself. And, I again, so we went to Chestermere Lake at like 1 a.m. And
I've never heard of that before.
And so we go to the dock and I stripped down butt naked and I just jumped in and baptized myself and just connected to the Holy Spirit and, washed me away and take me, as yours. So I, committed myself, as people would say, maybe born again. Right.
So when you were like what age? 22 now?
But 21, 22 years old.
And so when you were reading the Bible, like were you actually talking to God and asking God to show you what the truth
Oh
of it
yeah,
was?
tell me what I need to know, and like,
All right.
I was just trying to figure out everything about this, and then
Well, what
so I
what got you
baptized
onto that? Like, what got you thinking about all this stuff about God
my
and
friend Sarah. So she went to church
okay,
every
yeah,
single Sunday, and she asked me to go with her, and I just kept on going with her, and that's
okay,
kind of was my start back in, and the path to Jesus,
okay,
right?
okay, no.
And so I baptized myself, and then after that,
Baptize myself. That's like
uh,
if it looks like I'm not interested, I'm trying to send him some pictures. I thought about this at the last moment, so I'm listening and choosing some pictures to send him.
all
Okay, yeah,
good.
good. Yeah,
And so then, that was my, kind of beginning of my path to spirituality. And then obviously, over the years after that, I went to college. I met had some Muslim friends. They gave me a Quran. I was in the stairwell with them praying every time, with 2, 3 times there, at school time, we'd go into the stairwells and I would pray with the Muslims, and I'm reading the Muslim book, the Quran.
did you go in the
So,
stairwells because it had the echo and it could,
well, I don't know. I think it was because they, especially, 30 years ago, almost maybe 28 years ago, people's religious faiths were not as accepted, I guess, as we are today. We're a lot more tolerant, or, whether we're tolerant or intolerant or whatever it is, but
okay,
so we would go into that's where he prayed all the time, is in the stairwell. So I went and prayed with them in the stairwells on our knees, and, doing the prayers, and, and so I did
okay.
that, and I'm
Did
reading
it
the
have an
Quran.
effect? Did it do anything for you, or any of that stuff that you when you went to church with your girlfriend? Did it really move you in any way, or
Well, she wasn't my girlfriend. She was just my best
oh,
friend,
friend? Okay, sorry then.
but this was just, it was, for me, that I'm just an open sponge. I'm an open, book, trying to learn
Yeah, yeah, that and still today. Yeah,
what
you're the
all this
same
is.
today. Yeah, you're a
Yeah,
true
just trying to learn what is going on, because there's lots
yeah,
of different roads to the kingdom, and it seems like everybody believes that their road is right, and it
yeah,
all leads to the same kingdom. And we seem to have all these inner turmoils because it's the right way, Jesus is the only way, and
yeah,
and the Muslims are, we're the Allah is the only
yeah,
way, and everybody believes their belief is the only way.
yeah,
And there's a lot of disconnect between people, because they can't respect other people's differences to their roads to the same kingdom. And so
right.
I've just been learning everything I can. I've gone to Sikh temples. I haven't been to a Jewish one, but someone did give me one of their books, the what's that? The Torah. I did get the Torah, which I've
Okay, yeah.
read a little bit through that. Um,
You know
been
you know, funny thing is, it's not part of my spiel here, but I mean, I did go to a Jewish, temp or Jewish synagogue once with my buddy, and we walk in there and, he's a blonde, Dutch guy. He looks like a German, and we just walk in there. "Oh, no, no, you can't do that. You gotta put the hat on and everything," you know? Yeah, and they were going around with the scrolls, and, reading out from it, so got nothing out of it, but, it was interesting to watch.
Yeah, I had to put something on when I went to a Sikh funeral. I had to put one of those things on. They have something on
Oh,
their
okay.
head
Oh,
as
a Sikh,
well.
yeah, yeah. You would, yeah.
Yeah, I put that on for there. Went and I, tried to study as much different things over the years into the Buddhist and into the Tao, and, everything that I've been just trying to learn,
Yeah,
and, my own spirituality believes that, we have been gifted the discernment,
right?
and, to know the difference between right or wrong. And, if you live your life honorably, then, it doesn't matter what you believe, as long as you're living a good, honorable life, and you're not going around trying to hurt others, trying to destroy the earth or the people in it, then I believe that everybody has a spot in the kingdom of heaven. I actually, I believe that this is actually the kingdom of heaven. It's just actually been turned into,
Yeah,
the hell that people, feel that it is, because, you know, I've always, and I still do throughout all of my faith, believe that this is the most beautiful place in the universe, you know, and I believe that we're all, you know, gifted the right to be here. And I
Okay.
think when it comes to reincarnation, you come back here because this is the heavenly experience where everybody wants to be, where they have a body, where they have the ability to see, touch, smell, love, taste, laugh, cry, all of these things that maybe, you know, we don't have on to the other side. And maybe about 25 years ago, I was in a different city of mine. I was traveling around, and I ended up running into this girl who was crying, and she's bawling her eyes out. And I'm like, well, what's wrong? And she was like telling me the story that she got kicked out of her house, and she was staying
Oh,
with her cousin that was
oh
a
wow.
hooker for this gang, and
Oh,
uh, and
good.
they and
Yeah.
she was drinking their alcohol, eating their food,
Yeah.
smoking their weed. And after like 2 or 3 weeks, they told her to get out and make them some money to pay for all the stuff that she owed them and stuff.
Oh,
So I told her to forget about it. I'm like, you know, why
yeah.
don't we
Good.
just go find a place and, you know, screw them and all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
so we got this little basement suite, and um, we were there for, you know, a couple weeks. And I guess she had called her cousin that day, and she had told her cousin the address where it was. And
Oh.
that night they came in and they kicked in the door, and I
Oh.
was sleeping, and I woke up, and there was a whole bunch of guys in the apartment. They were yelling at her, "Where's our money?" and all this. And I stood up,
Oh,
and I'm like, "Don't talk to her like that." And
oh my goodness.
whatchamacallit, the next thing you know, out came the knives. I got stabbed 12 times. I got a bottle smashed
Oh,
over my head. One of the knives punctured my lung, and I heard a big bang in the hallway or something, and then they all just ran off and ran out of the place. And I sat back
oh,
on the couch, and I had blood pouring down my head because they hit me over the head with the bottle, like a big wine bottle.
oh,
And then I obviously got stabbed 12 times, different parts of my body. And I sit back on the couch, and blood's pouring out of me. And I said
oh,
to her, and
man.
I'm like, you know, I'm like, I need to go to the hospital. She goes, yeah, just don't bring the police here, okay? I was like, what? I like kind of stood up, and I like head for the door. I go up from the basement suite. I open the first glass door, and then everything went white light. I couldn't see
Yeah.
anything.
You just,
Everything was
oh,
white. And I kept on walking through the doors, and I
okay.
went through the other side, fell down the stairs. And there's a point, the reason why I'm telling you this story. So I
Yeah.
fell down the stairs and hit the ground, and everything went pitch black. And at that
Okay.
time was the first time that I was kind of scared, because adrenaline's going, you're just not thinking
Yeah.
about anything, and everything went pitch black. And then I heard this voice, and it was like the voice of God, or it was like, you know, an angel or something
Okay.
said, "Get up or you're gonna die, Jesse." And it was this profound voice in my head, and I'll never
Oh, wow.
forget the voice.
Yeah.
I get angel bumps every time I just talk about it and think about hearing this profound voice of God. That's what I believe that it was, and told me
So,
to get up
yes,
or I
you
was
believe
gonna
there's a
die.
God then, a creator? Someone,
Pardon?
some entity that made all this stuff?
Yeah, the creator, you know, a
Okay. All right.
God creator, you know, so it's the voice of God. I believe
Yeah.
everybody has the same creator. There's just different roads to get
Yeah.
there. It's, you
Yeah.
know, and it's just different stories to lead people to God. And I think that's what the whole, you know, I think the why there's different religions and different things, there's different sets of people to
Yeah.
get people to back to God. So yes, I do believe there's a creator, and I believe
Okay.
there was a voice that spoke to me. And then when I got to the hospital, and there was a whole bunch of doctors and nurses working around me, and the doctor was sticking his finger into each one of my stab wounds, and
Oh.
that hurt. And the whole time I didn't hurt, but every time he was sticking his finger in me, I was like, I had my hand, I wanted to hit him, and I'm like, Jesse, don't hit him. He's not gonna help you. Don't hit him. He's not gonna
Yeah.
help you. I kept on having to repeat this into my head because
Oh, man.
it hurt when someone sticks their finger
Oh,
into a
yeah.
stab
Yeah.
wound. It
Oh, man.
doesn't feel good at all.
Okay.
And I remember they were stitching up my head, and then they'd given me morphine. And the next thing you know, I seen my lifeless body on the table, and I floated. I feel like I floated away. I didn't see myself, but I saw myself on the table, and I
Okay. Yeah.
got
Yeah.
smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. It was just a beautiful, peaceful
Yeah.
place. And then the next day I woke up, And the nurse was like in the room, and I woke up. She goes, "Oh, I'm so glad you're awake." And I'm like, "I need a cigarette." And she's like, "You got a chest tube in you?" Because one of the stab wounds punctured my
You
lungs. My
can't
lungs
smoke,
had
yeah.
full up. And she's like, "You can't smoke. You got this chest tube in you." I said, "Look, lady, if you knew what I just went through and I'm still alive, I don't think a smoke is gonna hurt me." And she's like, "You want to do that? You got to go do that yourself." But
Oh, yeah.
so I just
Okay,
wanted to
well,
tell you that because I
okay, yeah,
feel the presence. I saw myself. I felt like I went to
yeah, yeah.
another place. I know that this isn't it. I know I have a firm belief in, that this is a beautiful place here for us,
Okay,
right?
so basically, there is a creator. You live your best life. Uh, do you is there any way out of reincarnation, like some of the different religions? If you actually yoke up with God truly, and karma doesn't, catch you, that you actually become like God or become part of God, and you don't have to go through reincarnation. Is
I don't know. Everything
Okay.
is speculation. Everybody has their theories. I interviewed
So
hundreds
you're
of
not
people.
hardcore on anything on that.
No, I can't tell you anything that isn't factual or actual that I actually
Yeah.
know as my own belief. I am a firm believer, and I can only tell you what I know,
Okay.
not what other people have made me believe, not what's been
Yeah.
written in some book 2,000 years ago to
Oh,
say that that's
easy,
to
easy.
say, but to say that
Yeah.
is, just because it was written there and it's been
Oh, no,
changed,
of course.
and
No, you
it's,
have
like
to prove all
grammar is
things.
changed,
Yeah.
the apocalyptic language has changed, the people that are in control of this dimension, the Freemasons, whoever, that the King James was written by them at the same time they wrote the Book of Demonology. So just because it says it somewhere or someone firmly believes something, it doesn't make it
Oh, yeah,
actual
of
or
course.
factual or
Oh,
true.
of course. I agree. Yeah. No.
So that's kind of where I'm at with
Yeah,
me
okay.
and my spirit. And I'm just learning. I'm learning from everybody and everything. I can go to any single temple. I can go to any single church. I believe church is the earth. And these temples are supposed to be houses of God, but they're not being treated the way that, houses of God should be. They should never be locked. They should be open and welcoming. They should be feeding people. Like, there's a lot of things that I find wrong about churches and things
Yeah.
that I see. But overall, I just try to learn from everybody and everything as,
Oh,
my path and my journey.
it seems like it, like, I mean, you interview all kinds of people and you even have me on here, so that's pretty good. And then actually people maybe don't know that you had a roundtable 3 or 4 days ago, and I was the one contrarian monotheistic Bible thumper out of the whole. Actually, no, they all quoted from the Bible too. But they were all, I called them all monotheistic too, because they all had hardcore belief systems too, that, especially the one fellow, I forget his name, but he says, "No, this is the truth, Ron, the truth."
Oh, Grant.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Well,
But then
Aaron, he speaks of the Bible a lot. He's very
yeah,
well spoken.
yeah.
And I told him, I'm like, before that, I'm like, you're my favorite Bible thumper, right? So, he got a good laugh out of that.
Okay, good. Okay, well, since we only have an hour or something here, okay, I appreciate that. So it gives me a good view. I didn't know all that. That's really good. So you're very much like Dr. Buttar, who just died recently. Because if you watch the Laura Lynn interview, her last interview with him or whatever, and his last interview, it's quite interesting. He had a very similar experience where his son, well, in the fact that he reached out to God, right? And yeah, so it's worthwhile watching.
I
I guess
seen
I can start.
I seen it,
Yeah,
and I was completely in alignment with most of what he
yeah,
said.
me
I
too,
was like,
actually. Yeah,
I was in awe, and it was such a powerful, great interview.
I agree.
And
Yeah,
glad that I ended up watching it. Someone said that it's really important. It's got a lot of good gems. So yeah,
yeah.
I'm
Oh
in
yeah,
alignment with what he was
yeah.
saying.
I am pretty much too in the basic thing, and I think he's I'd call him a born again Christian, even though he doesn't profess Christ. Okay, but anyhow, we can get into that. But the thing is that maybe I'll start with my story here. As far as a lot of people, their view of fathership gets really tainted by having fathers that are totally evil and corrupt, and they might rape the kids, or they might beat them, or just be you know just a very hostile, damaging environment for a child. And I think that can shape people's worldview and their religious views, because, well, Christianity talks about the Heavenly Father. So if you have a warped perception of what really true fatherhood is, I think it can affect you. Now, in my case, I had really good parents. I mean, I don't even remember my father raising his voice up at my mom ever. He might roll his eyeballs and then walk away, I've seen that quite a few times. And, but, they never beat on us, relentlessly or anything, only when we deserved it, eh? And, my family, both sides of my family came to Canada in the late 1600s and early 1700s. So it's, I think, pretty hardy stock, and they're both French. And, I guess I was bilingual when I was 5, Mom says. But I remember my dad, when he'd get upset with us, he didn't hit us very often, but he'd go like this with a backhand. He goes, "Moodzy, gimme," I mean, he's goddamn kids, I think, but, and so anyhow, I mean, we typically deserved it, but my parents never told us that they loved us. They just demonstrated it by providing us with, all the things of life. My dad built 2 homes. And actually, that you can pop up that first one, that first picture I sent you, or the first 2. That was a second home. And it was quite interesting. We lived in the basement for the first year, and my mom had a pot, for her kitchen sink. And I ended up duplicating the whole thing as an adult. It's quite interesting. Yeah, so, dad built that, and we were on 3 acres of land. You can, go to the next one, and all those pillars and everything else. He built all that stuff. He built the kitchen cabinets, but he wasn't a carpenter by trade. But, and we would mow the lawn, and he'd, get us pulling weeds and stuff like that. But it was a good environment, eh? So I don't have any of that baggage that other people have, and they were Catholic, and yeah, you can take it off that now. Okay, or whatever, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's probably easier to keep it on for you, right? Instead of going back and forth. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not. I can just click it on and off.
Okay.
So
Yeah. So, they were Catholic, and they did the baby baptism in what I would call like a watering dish for birds, like it's a pedestal thing, whatever. And, they sent us to Catholic kindergarten and Catholic school. And that's the very end of the baby boomers, And it's kind of a funny thing here. They had 3 classes of grade 1s, class A, B, and C. And I was in class C. And when I got my report card and I noticed that everything was graded in A, B, C, and D, the smartest being A. And I thought, oh man, I must be a dummy. But anyhow, it was in that first grade classroom, being Catholic school, that they would actually have a religion class. And I don't remember anything about the religion class except for this one event. And I don't remember the passages or anything, but it was basically they were reading from the Catholic Bible, and they were talking about Jesus' miracles and some of his teachings. And I was just kind of, there's something with the Bible for me, is that it has power. It really, there's something, to me, I would call it like the Holy Spirit was speaking to me and saying, look, this is something really important. And I went home, and we had this big, thick Catholic Bible. Like there,
what's a
and
Catholic Bible opposed to like a King James? Like, is that a Catholic Bible, or do they have a specific?
no,
Like,
Catholic Bible. They changed some stuff, from other versions, and they have, But I said to my mom, like, I mean, told her the experience, and I says, why don't we read from the Bible here, And she says, oh, the Bible is too hard to understand. We need the priest to interpret it for us, and blah, blah, blah. And that was the end of that,
a lot of
And
people believe that. That's Angeline said throughout the centuries, most people didn't even know how to read. So they needed a priest or someone that could read, and then
yeah,
to interpret what the Bible said to them. So most people didn't even get what the true meaning, just whatever that priest's interpretation of what that Bible was.
well, yeah, that's basically like we hear today. Oh, the experts have spoken. The experts agree, right? With COVID and everything else, listen to the experts because we don't know all this stuff. And, that's how it was in the Dark Ages too, right? I mean, the Bible was written in Latin back then, and it was chained to the podium. The average person couldn't get a hold of a Bible. And then when they started printing the Bibles, I mean, it was a death sentence in Europe if you did that kind of stuff. But anyhow, at that, when I was in grade 1 there, our neighbors, actually, I didn't know this, they actually were praying for us as a family. And I found out 30 years later when I, accidentally ran into one of the girls there, and she said all this stuff, and I was kind of, whoa, you know. But but anyhow, I always had kind of a good sense of conscience, that, like you're talking about, how we have this. There's a Bible verse that says, "And thine ear shall hear a word behind thee saying, This is the way, walk ye in it, whether you turn to the left or right." So God speaks to us in that still small voice, just like in the story with Elijah. Elijah's running away, and God comes to him, and there's an earthquake and all these big manifestations, and then a still small voice, and then the still small voice says to Elijah, "What you doing here? What are you up to?" And so God speaks to us through our conscience, in my experience, and this is what Bitar has felt the same way, and I think you feel the same way too. And
Does
so I,
do you think
so
the
I,
devil does as well? Because some people say you've
yeah,
got the one good ear saying, go ahead and do this, and
oh
then you
yeah,
got
yeah,
the other
true,
ear.
true, true,
So
true,
would
true.
that be both the
Oh yeah,
God
I
and the
agree.
devil speaking to
Yeah,
each and every single person, and the people have the ability to heal or to harm with
yeah.
their actions?
Yeah, no, I agree with that actually, and I've experienced it. But anyhow, so I had this basic, like when I was young, we were living still in Edmonton, and grade 1-ish or whatever. And one of the bully kids, like he stole a Tonka toy or a Matchbox toy or whatever, and he put it on the alley was just paved, and he says, "Okay, Ron, you ride your bike and you run over this kid's toy. You wreck his toy," kind of a thing. And I'd always, purposely miss it. And he says, "Oh, you're purposely missing it." I says, "Well, I don't want to go and wreck the kid's toy. Why would I do that?" And then later on, we moved into the country, and there's a lot of new development out by Sturgeon Valley Golf Course. That's where we lived, north of Edmonton. And when they dig a basement, and they'd pour the basement, we would have dirt lump fights out there, and it was pretty wild, man. Those dirt lumps, they would, if they caught you off guard, man, they would really hit you hard. But these, and so these guys are framing their houses and whatnot, and then the other kids, they go in there and they're grabbing boxes of nails and they're dropping it down, one story, and busting it open. And one kid took a nail and he wrecked the tub, scratched the tub up, and I'm thinking, what are you guys doing? Like, I mean, it's one, we have a paradise here of dirt lumps and everything else, and you're going to wreck it with, So anyhow, I think that's an important thing, to have that ability to hear God's voice and to differentiate it. I think is a very critical thing. Anyhow, so the parents took us to church every Sunday, and to me, the only thing I learned from church was the taste of varnish. Like we went to the St. Albert Church up there with the old pews, and it was all varnished, and you'd have to kneel and pray and stand and whatever. And when I was kneeling and I was young, I'd put my mouth on the wood, eh? So that's what I got out of that. And they taught me the catechism and all that stuff, and I had to
I don't
do
know
my
what that
first
is.
my first confession to the priest, and he says, "What sins have you done, what sins have you done, my son?" Well, I stole cookies from my parents. I don't know. Like, I mean, what am I supposed to come up with here? Parents had me as an altar boy, and I remember, like in communion in the Catholic Church, when they, do the communion and raise it up, you hear these bells, ding, 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 ding. And I was always wondering where are the bells coming from. It's like the Beverly Hillbillies, like when someone would come to the door and ring the doorbell, and they're all looking all over the place. That's what it was like for me. But ultimately it was embarrassing, because here I am, I'm getting older, and it was just embarrassing. And if I saw someone else from school there, we'd kind of, "Oh, you too, eh? Oh, okay." you know. And in grade 7, people thought I was a drug dealer, and I thought it was a cool compliment, actually. So that's where I was kind of going with my headspace. I don't want to be, seen in some Catholic church or any religion. And I wanted nothing to do with religion, actually. And so we had moved out into the country there, and that's where you saw that acreage. But then they moved back into Edmonton. And so the parents said, "Okay, look, we're going to send you to a Catholic school in grade 9." And I absolutely refused. I said, "There's no way. If you send me to a Catholic school, I'm going to quit school." And they called my bluff. I guess they didn't call my bluff. They actually went with my bluff, and they put me into a public school. And I was in a public school all after grade 1, actually, from grade 2 to grade 9. It was public school, and there's no way I was going to go to some religious, like, oh my goodness, So I refused, and all of that happened. And so I ended up going to Emmy Lizert in high school. That was the most liberal high school in Edmonton it was a trade school. So you could actually, get like grade 10 or no, grade 11 and 12, it was 40 credits that you would get out of 100 credits for, carpentry or automotive or machining, or they even had, actually, before I came there, they actually had to become a mechanic for the air industry. They had a plane and stuff there. But at that time, I almost failed grade 10 phys ed because I really got into skateboarding in a big way, and got so good that I was winning contests and stuff. Yeah, so there's my little trophy thing. I don't have the trophies anymore. I ditched them, like there's just too much to pack around. And
I was a skateboarder as well.
where are you?
Yeah,
I still am, actually. We should go skate someplace.
I've got a longboard. I haven't done too much with both my hips. I got to be careful.
Yeah, you
but,
have your hips. Yeah.
I used to power slide a lot. So I don't know if you remember what a power slide is, but that's where you going straight and you turn the board this way and slide. Well, I could do like half a block. Like we would go as fast as we could, and we would just going, like, it was pretty crazy. But I was the power slide king. I never won any trophies or anything, but I sure enjoyed skateboarding.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I need to learn. So we'll have to go skate. I went and bought this $400 kit, and it actually is a brake for a skateboard because I don't know how to power slide and I don't want to kill anyone. I did end up getting the fastest direct drive motor electric skateboard that almost wants to kill me all the time, but I got rid of that. But anyhow, so I was really getting into the skateboarding stuff, and, alcohol was a really big thing by then because I had started very young in alcohol back in junior high, and even younger, actually, when I was 5 or 6. Parents would have a party and they'd have their homemade wine or whatever. And the parents thought it was kind of funny because we would kind of take a sip every once in a while and we'd be half cut running around.
Those dang public schools.
Oh, no, that was just at home. That, that was my parents. I mean,
well, you said you started alcohol in junior high or whatever, right? So,
well, that's when, like seriously at parties and stuff like that. But before that, even when I was 5 or 6, I mean, we, if there was a wedding or something like that, I mean, we'd be running around half cut, when we were that age, and people thought it was funny, but yeah, so alcohol for me was a thing. I mean, I dabbled in the pot and the hash and stuff like that, but and actually at that school, what the guys would do when they were in welding and stuff like that is that they would heat up a piece of metal and drop a chunk of hash on it. And then they'd be, the kids were stoned. And, going along with that, I mean, I had gone to a math class. I was pretty drunk, actually. And it was grade 10. And the teacher, this is back in the 70s, okay? And he had tattoos back then. So he had been around, I mean, this guy. And he noticed that I was cut. Yeah, we'll go to that after.
Okay.
And then he says, Ron, you want to come up to the front of the board here and work out this math equation for the class, please? I go up front there, and have you ever seen Calvin and Hobbes when the Calvin has to go to the chalkboard, comic? No. And he's just a little kid, eh? 2 + 2 =, and then it'd be astral space travel after that all over the chalkboard, eh? And I'm doing all this, and then the class is laughing at me, and especially the girls. That was the worst, And then he finally says, that's quite enough, Ron, you can go back to your seat now. And and I never went to his class drunk again, actually. But but alcohol was becoming a big thing for all of us, actually. And the guys were really stoned all the time. In carpentry, that's what I ended up going into. The guys were ripped, and the teacher's trying to teach us stair calculations and stuff, and he's just banging his head against the wall. Why can't these kids figure out what I'm teaching them, Well, that's because they were stoned, And then in this is actually a spiritual experience here. This is the second big one. My girlfriend comes and says, I'm pregnant. I have morning sickness and all this stuff. And we had talked before, actually, that, about pregnancy and whatnot. And I says, oh, no, if you get pregnant, you have an abortion. And she's a Catholic girl, eh? She says, no, I'll have the baby. Absolutely, 100%, And so here I am in high school thinking my life is going to end. I mean, she's pregnant? How could this possibly happen? Because you're an idiot, Ron. That's why, you know. And so I ended up, I mean, I was pretty, like against Christianity, religion, all that stuff. I had a real hate for it in a sense, But then when I was, there was no human way out of this whole thing. No human devising could save me. So I ended up praying to God. I says, "Oh Lord, if you can make it so that she's not pregnant, I don't know who you are or what you're about or anything, but if you can make it so she's not pregnant, please, please make it so she's not pregnant. I'll serve you and I'll figure it out," and all this stuff. And it ended up being that she, we do this morning test of the morning urine, right? And it goes, I don't know, I forget how it was done, test tube and stuff like that. But if it got, the darker it got, the more, you're going to be pregnant. If it got to a certain color level, and it's getting darker and darker because the urine would make it darker, right? And I was still praying there. And I think, in this whole hour you have to wait, my life is hanging in the balance, and I'm saying, Lord, and it ended up being that she wasn't pregnant, So, and I thought to myself afterwards, why is it when I was in dire straits that I talked to this God I don't know, And so anyhow, that was significant to me, but I forgot about it and went on my way and all that kind of stuff. So I graduated high school, went into carpentry. It was good money, but very hard work. It was like heavy construction, like concrete and stuff. But I was living at home, so I was living like a king because I could spend my paychecks on stuff. And I got into high-end audio, and there's a thrill of well, I wasted a lot of money upgrading, right? But you upgrade, and you go, oh man, that's incredible, because music's so powerful. And so I'd have this high-end audio system and do the upgrade thrills, but really, in retrospect, it didn't satisfy me in the end. It gave you a thrill and everything else. And I got into motorbikes, and that gave you a thrill. But ultimately, in the end, it doesn't fill a void that we have, kind of a thing. But I'll tell you a funny story here. Let's see, what's our time? 1:11. So my buddy who got me into high-end audio, I was over at his place, and he bought the world's most expensive cartridge, like on a turntable. It was like $5,000 back then in 82 or 81, something like that. And but it came with electronics, and it was all a match, right? So anyhow, so he goes and he says, "Hey, you got to come and listen to this," and I'm listening to it, and I go, "I don't know, John, it kind of sounds thick and syrupy," And he he took a loan out and everything for this thing, eh? And he had just put on a brand new Ricky Lee Jones album. Those things were like $7 back then. Now they're 25 or 30 or whatever. Brand new. Took it out of the plastic, stuck it on his Oracle turntable, clamped it down, put it on, and so he did all that, and he said, thick and syrupy, thick and syrupy. I'll show you what thick and syrupy is. And he peels off, unclamps it, and the mat is sticky. So he peels it off, and he goes and runs upstairs. I'm thinking, what's he doing? You never know with John. So he comes back down, he puts it back on the turntable, clamps it down. He says, thick and syrupy, you want thick and syrupy? Here's thick and syrupy. And the Ricky Lee Jones album that was brand new was all covered in maple syrup, and anyhow, so we did our whole audio thing and all that kind of stuff. But anyhow, I just thought that I'll tell you that story because it's pretty funny. But
some people asked what your age was, and then what schools in what churches in Edmonton were you a part of?
Well, in Edmonton, I forget the church. It was by Calder. But then in grade 1, we moved to Namao Base, actually, or not Namao Base. What am I talking about? We went to in around Sturgeon Valley, 127th Street. If you go out of town, then there's a bunch of acreages out there. And I went to school at the Sturgeon Valley. Oh no, sorry, at the Namao junior high and elementary school, and that's just on Highway 28 north of the base. As far as church, we went to the Catholic church on the base, actually, and then they'd have this funny because they'd have the two churches. They'd have the Catholic church and a Protestant church, and the doors, would actually face each other, and they were divided by very much room, like maybe 100 feet or something. So I thought that was kind of weird, like what's with that other church over there, but mostly it was City of St. Albert. They like to put their churches high up on the hills, And so that's where we went.
Closer to God.
Well, there's more to it than that, I think, but yeah. But anyhow, so here I am, I'm working away, like it's hard work, heavy construction, doing concrete work. And we were doing grade beams for this shopping mall by Clairview or whatever. And I'm slopping in the mud and I'm thinking to myself, life is so incredible. Here we are. I mean, there's got to be some creator that made us, because I mean, how is it possible that we're even here? But what's the point of it? We're just kind of born to die. Why is it that some creator can make life out of nothing and then not keep it going? I mean, wouldn't it be a simple thing just to keep it going? So why do we end up aging and dying? It didn't make any sense to me. What happens when you die anyhow? It just, if you die and that's the end and it's oblivion, what's even the point of life itself? So there had to be something else going on here, right? And so I was asking these questions, like what's even the purpose of life? What's going on? So so really at that time, still, even though I was asking those questions, I would still profess to be an atheist at parties, because it would get things kind of stirred up a bit and people would get animated, But I actually did believe there was a creator, and my other friends were questioning the same as well. And this is around, age. Well, I graduated high school when I was 18, so I got into construction right away. And so we're in our 20s, just like you, 20, 21, something like that, right? And but I was, at that time, I was pretty rough. I mean, hanging around all of these skateboarders. Well, actually, I can't blame it on the skateboarders, actually, but the old guys who I thought would swear like sailors in construction, they were offended by my speech. I could swear with the best of them, and I could make up sexual jokes, just excellent, and that cowboy that we see every once in a while from Alberta, the swearing cowboy who talks about Trudeau and all that stuff. I think he's probably one of the best eloquent swearers there is, but I was pretty close. I mean, you know what I'm talking about? I don't know. He's on
Yeah,
TikTok.
I believe he's been on the missing link.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, I got to search. You got to send me that one if you can find it. But
I'm wondering if it's the same guy. So
he's always wearing his cowboy stuff, his chaps, and he's, but not that I condone swearing, because actually part of my story, because I guess I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but that thing with the still small voice. I was actually with my girlfriend at the time, and I was in a social setting, and I was just talking, and swearing was just like, you didn't even think that you're swearing. And all these people, are kind of offended by how I was talking, and I'm thinking, man, maybe I should, like dial this down or figure out when I'm swearing or something, and that to me was God speaking to me saying, hey, yeah, you don't need to talk like that. Like, I mean, you have a higher calling. So even though, people think I'm pretty straight laced and square now, but, I could, go with the best of them, but alcohol then was still becoming, like, for all of us in our construction class and from high school, we're all turning into alcoholics really after high school. And, one thing with that is, I guess I should back up just a bit here. Like, with my view that there is a God, I thought, you know what? I mean, I heard that if you love God, you're going to go to heaven. So if I just, if I say that I love God, I'm golden, like it's everything's, right on. And, but yet I would drink a 26er of Jack Daniels or Southern Comfort or whatever it was. I drank dark rum one time and I thought I was going to die after that. But I drink, that through the night and into the morning, and then I drive home. And I was so hammered, doing this. And here I was thinking that I'm, a good guy. I got good morals and everything else like that. But yet I was putting people's lives at risk by being so hammered, And then one time I was drinking whiskey and beer, I think it was. And I was driving home. It was at nighttime. And it's Castle Downs, by Castle Downs Mall, where there's 2 lanes on either side with a meridian. And I just finished passing some people. The speed limit's 60. And then it goes into just 2 lanes, and there's a big curve. And then I was almost home. I 2 blocks away from home, but I had to go the long way around because there's no road directly to it. And there I saw a quarter mile away a set of headlights, and I'm thinking, oh no, I don't have a good feeling about these headlights, you know. So I'm concentrating. Okay, stay on the right side of the road. Stay on the right side of the road, you know. And we weren't wearing seatbelts back then or anything, you know. And all of a sudden, bang! Head-on collision. Actually, do you have a picture of that car? I sent you a picture of it, my smashed up car back then, a '74 Torino, I think it was. Maybe it's after all of that. Sorry. Or yeah, I'm kind of doing a spoiler alert with all of this.
It's okay.
But anyhow, so the other guy was doing, yeah, there it is. And so that's a lot of metal on that car, you know. And you can see here on the windshield where my head smashed in there. But anyhow, it was a bench seat, and I ended up with my head on the floor on the passenger side. And that's when the people who I just passed said, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I go, yeah. And I'm thinking, oh man, I am in trouble here. I hope the other guy's okay, you know, and all this stuff. And I said, man, that guy sure hit you. What? Yeah, he went right into your lane. You kidding me? A quarter mile away, he had all that. Then he swerves into my lane. And it ended up being a fellow who was visiting from an overseas country, and it was kind of slippery out. And I think he probably was skidding a little bit, so he overcorrected. But I didn't move much after he hit me. Like I took 110 kilometer impact. Good thing I maybe was hammered, you know, so I was very loose, you know, because I wasn't injured at all.
A lot of people live because of that when they come
you know,
into big, because one of the parts of an accident is people resist it. And when you resist it, that's when
everything's
you become
tense,
and that's when you become hurt.
Yeah. Well, you know, I figured I just dove into the passenger side, but when I looked and saw all the damage to the dash and everything else, you know, but you know, and that makes you think too. He says, oh man, you know, like, I mean, what if I did cross into that guy's? So you kind of think, you know, like, man, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was, right? And so anyhow, I mean, my other buddies were questioning what's going on with life, and we would have, you know, sessions, you know, we'd have little parties and stuff like that, and we'd be talking about, you know, what's up with all of this. And I wasn't really professing atheism then. I was trying to figure out what was going on too. And so I was at my friend's place, and there was a few of us there, and I was half cut, you know, drinking Canadian. And then we were talking about, you know, I said, oh, you just have to love God and live a good life. And, you know, the balances, if you did good, you know, you know, that'll outweigh the bad, and, you know, that kind of a thinking. Right. And so this guy, he's got a blue mohawk, you know, and he says, you know, he's talking right in front of me. He says, no, Ron, that's not what it is at all. I went to Bible college in Saskatchewan for so many years. I'm thinking, what's wrong with this picture? This guy's got a blue mohawk and he went to Bible college. Are you kidding me? You know, but then he says, you know, in the Bible, Jesus says you have to be born again. Otherwise you're not going to enter into the kingdom of heaven. Now he might as well have had a 2x4 and smoked me right between the eyes with that Bible passage, because it just totally shattered my little paradigm, you know, of, you know, getting to heaven and everything else. But anyhow, so that was very powerful. So the friends are, you know, getting into this, and then, okay, with the skateboarding, actually, let's go back to that skateboarding thing there. For some reason, I'm just looking at my notes here. I kind of maybe skipped over my notes on that. Yeah, so this will lead up to, that's me in the bottom, and that's Warren Zeeper, you know, like him and his brother, they would make up all kinds of lingo, and we had our own language, man.
You had long flowing hair.
Yeah. I loved it because it would flow in the wind, you know. If I still had my hair, I'd probably still keep it long. But anyhow, I got onto, like, this is Edmonton, 1976, 1977. I became one of the good skateboarders in Edmonton, and I got onto a team skier sport shop. It was just on the north side of the high level bridge, or south side, a few blocks. But anyhow, they had built a ramps kind of similar to this. Actually, if you go to the next photo, I think it'll be, no, okay, that's Kenny Chin. Okay. That other ramp, it was a half pipe. It was like this, you know, with 4 feet of vert and an 8-foot transition, and then 4 foot of flat, and then the other side. And we were trying to figure out how to ride this thing because there was no one to teach us. There was no, like we were the bleeding edge that we could see at that point in time. And then it was Skier Sport Shop. They had it right in their parking alley or parking way there. And then there was it was a slalom racing instructor who worked there, and he was watching us and watching how we were pumping and stuff. And he says, "You guys are pumping at the wrong location. You got to pump here, and you got to pump, kind of a thing." Because he saw slalom racing going around the pole or whatever. You compress as you go down into it, and then you stand up out of it, and that's where you get your speed. And so we were learning how to ride this crazy half pipe, But going back to so with that, this leads to another religious experience because there was go back actually a couple or one. Because our skateboard team, that's Kenny Chin. Now, Kenny Chin, I don't know if you know him. He's Chai Pig of SNFU. And this is before NSFU. This is at my high school graduation. I took a picture of him. He didn't go to our high school. He went to Victoria Comp, but he crashed it with his buddy there. That's typical Kenny Chin, man. He would like there were 12 kids in the family, single mother. There's no money. So he just took what he needed to take. You know what I mean? But if you go back, actually, we made it into the Edmonton Journal quite a few times. And that picture there, no, it was the one with the 3/4 pipe. Okay, so that's Kenny Chin on there. This got into the Edmonton Journal. I'm sitting down because I just finished, doing a run. I'm tired.
That's you on the ground?
Yeah, that's me. This is Al Zeeper. Him and his brother would make up all the new language. This is Mark Pellegrini. I used to win the freestyle contests all the time. And then when Mark Pellegrini came, it was in Kingsway Garden Mall. And I was eyeing up my skateboard I was going to win. And then Kenny Chin says, "Oh, man, you got to see this kid out in the back there. He's just doing some mind-blowing stuff, And that's him. He's like a Rodney Mullen back then, And he won. And, he would always win after that. And he won the provincials, even against the Calgary boys. And this is Kenny's younger brother, Danny. So anyhow, Kenny Chin, Danny, Mark Pellegrini, and myself were on the skier skateboard team. And another guy named Grant Beatty. Grant Beatty became, he had a band called This Sphere, and he was the keyboard player. But anyhow, we go to Hanna, Alberta, because one of the guys who worked at Skier Sport Shop was there, and his family had a hotel over in Hanna. So Hanna's just a sleepy town, and back then probably 1,000 people, And so we go down there, and Sneaky Pete, he's one of the guys who was a technician there, probably 10 years older than us. He had his 1967 Mustang that, the steering was so wore out, he'd be all over the road. So Grant Beatty's in the front. He's a tall guy. He's going to university for computer engineering. Smart guy. And then there was in the back, because we're all small guys, Kenny Chin, Danny, myself, and Mark Pellegrini. We're all squished in there, Anyhow, we go into Hanna, and we're just, a bunch of animals. We go in there, and especially Kenny Chin, like he was really vocal, and he'd be swearing, and and we're all talking back and forth. Mark Pellegrini and I were the quiet ones, so I don't know how much damage I was doing, and I don't know how much those guys stole out of that mom and pop shop, because it was actually, the guys who owned it, worked there, right? We go back into the car, and Sneaky Pete, he just reams into us. He says, "You bunch of animals, you're swearing, and you're supposed to be representing Skier Sports Shop, and you're just like, unbelievable." And he was just really offended with us, And so we did our skateboard demonstration, and we were supposed to actually go and stay in the hotel. Like, we had brought sleeping bags and stuff, but I think Sneaky Pete didn't want us to relate to any part of society in Hanna because we were just too out there, And so we ended up sleeping in a park. I think it was just a little bit north of Hanna, and we were sleeping on these picnic tables. And it was Hanna. There's no light corruption like in a city. And so we're all on our sleeping tables looking up into the sky, and there's no clouds whatsoever. And it was vivid. It was spectacular. And I thought, why haven't I looked at this universe before? And so we're all talking about this stuff, and Grant Beatty, being the professor that he was, he says, oh yeah, you know, like, I mean, you can actually, if you watch, you'll be able to see shooting stars, you know, and we're all peeled in there looking for shooting stars, and you know, one would fly by every 10 minutes or whatever. And he says, and then, you know, like, yeah, there's satellites that go by and they'll go, and they're twirling, and you can see the reflection go blink, 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 you know, and we're watching all this stuff. But then the magnitude of the universe, I thought, oh my goodness, you know, like, who are we? I mean, who made this stuff? And then you ask the question, like, so, okay, so where does it end? If it ends, then is there anything beyond where it ends? Does it start again? You know, all this kind of stuff, right? And it just blew me away. And that was a very profound, I'd call it a religious experience or whatever, that there is a creator, that there's some magnificence there, some power that we can't even, you know, begin to understand. And so if you go back to the skateboarding thing there, let's see if I can add anything to that. Oh, I'll give you another quick story since we have a little bit of time here. So we do another skateboard demonstration in Jasper, and we're going down the highway. Sneaky Pete's in the front, you know, and Grant Beatty's there, and then we're all squished in the back. And there was on highway, whatever it is, to Jasper 16. All of a sudden, the guys say, "Oh, the cop just turned around." So there's a cop on RCMP that was going the other way, and he just peeled, you know, right around, and he started following us. And he was quite a ways back, you know. And, you know, listening to Cheech and Chong back then, I just, you know, made a joke of it. I says, and I said, "Hey, man, I had the drugs, man. I had the drugs," you know. And then Sneaky Pete pulls out a quarter ounce, you know, out of his pocket, gives it to Grant Beatty. Grant Beatty leans over, stuffs it into, you know, his sleeping bag that's at his feet, you know. And then the cop pulls us all of the car, and we tell him we're going to Jasper to do a demonstration. He opens up the trunk, and there's a million skateboards in the back, you know, because we all had multiple skateboards. And then he goes and he walks around where Grant Beatty was, opens the door, goes right in there, and pulls out the quarter ounce. Like, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I really felt bad because, you know, that's you know, I don't know if it was just a fine that he gave him, but it might probably just a fine. I think the cop took the drugs because Sneaky
Of course
Pete,
they did. They needed it for their own stash.
yeah, well, Sneaky Pete says, well, where can I get dope in Jasper? He says, oh, you go over here, you know, and that's where, you know. But anyhow, so we did this skateboard demonstration in Jasper, and it, like, the whole town showed up, you know. But anyhow, so we were, you know, influencers in our own way. And is there anything else? Let's see, what's the next picture? So that's Kenny Chin. Okay, and the next one. So that's actually me, and it was Mark Pellegrini. I remember him taking pictures back then, and I never saw that picture until Kenny Chin died, actually, a couple of years ago, and we ended up reuniting there. And he says, "Hey," I'm talking to him on the phone. He says, "Hey, I got some pictures from, you know, back then," and he showed me this picture, and I go, "Oh my goodness, I ripped it, eh?" Like, I never thought I got that high, but I guess I obviously did, you know, because I mean, you get squished up like a ball and you go back down. And so anyhow, what's the next picture? Do I have it on, or is that it?
I think that one's
okay.
it. I think we've gone
Okay. Anyhow,
through them all.
so anyhow, I mean, just like you, I was questioning everything. And then my friends, they ended up, they said, "Hey, you got to come to this Bible study these guys are having at their house." They're just new Pentecostals, right? A nice young couple. They were older than us by, you know, 8 years or something, but they were doing that deal. And so we were going over there, and my buddy was kind of joking around and not really into it. And I was getting serious, you know. I says, "Hey, why don't you shut up?" You know, so we could actually get into this thing, you know. And so you could see that I was really starting to really search at that point in time. And then there was an evangelist guy who he's actually an ex-logger, great big guy. And he did a long series of lectures at the Londonderry Hotel, where we would sometimes go drink, you know, and he rented the cabaret area, right? A big, huge monster area. And I was going to go to it, and I actually ultimately did. And then when I just got my motorbike, I just got my new motorbike just not too long, and I was looking forward to riding my bike there, you know. And my buddy John, who actually got me into high-end audio, he phones me up. He says, "So what you doing tonight?" And I says, I'm going to these lectures over at the Londonderry. And he says, oh, you got to take me, because actually what was happening with him, he was actually suicidal and I didn't even know it. And he worked at ITV and they were advertising these lectures on ITV. And he was thinking, man, I should go to those things, and he didn't have a car or a vehicle. And so anyhow, I thought, oh, bummer. I wanted to take my bike, but I can hardly ride it myself. I don't want to kill someone else too, So I drove my car that was all smashed up there. Anyhow, we went to this thing and that guy rocked us on our heels. I mean, he was actually using the Bible to interpret the Bible, right? And he's also mingling in, current events, what's going on in the world, and that to me was a red pill experience. And that's when I actually became a Christian, when I didn't baptize myself like you did. That's actually, I never even thought about that. But I became a Christian at that point in time. And one of the things I asked for, to this God that I hardly knew, and I'm trying to figure it all out and all this stuff. And I said, well, God, I really would like it if you could show me what's really going on in the world. I want to know the truth and help me to figure it out and show me. So all through from 1984, and that happened in 1984. So I'm 22 or whatever it is, and it's an interesting year to have a red pill experience about the corruption of the world when you think of the book 1984 and where we are now, right? So I find that interesting. But so I'd keep my ear, and through this process of surrendering myself to God in an honest truth, it's like a marriage. This is a real deal. I remembered how I made that promise to God. I says, oh man, I better own up to that one. With my girlfriend saying she's pregnant. I made that promise. And I also really wanted to know what the truth was. And all throughout from that time till now, I've been open to whatever. I mean, if it's not there, or if it's someplace else, it's okay, right? I'll go, if I'm going to be one of those Hare Krishnas where you shave your head and then you're bang, 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 if that's where it is, man, I'll go there. It doesn't matter to me. And that's actually what Buttar said in his interview, didn't he? He said, because Laura Lynn asked him, what if you don't make it? What if you end up, in a bad place or whatever? He says, you know what? I trust God. God is love, and he has the best thing, set for us. And, I totally trust him, And so anyhow, this whole thing of going, so I should back up. Those Pentecostals that had that study, Brian, I forget his last name, but he gave me the best advice anyone had gave me in my entire life. And I'm 60. So I'm how old are you? You're 40.
I'm turning 50 this year.
50. Oh, yeah. You're old, man.
No, I'm young. So if I'm planning on being here till at least 150. So I've only lived
you're better than me because
a third of my life. So I'm only a third of the way there. Still got another 100 years to go. So
well, after 40, I started counting backwards. So I'm actually, what am I now? 20? Yeah. But at 0, it's expiry date. In a joke, right? But anyhow, so Brian, when we were doing the studies over at his place, he said, well, Ron, what I suggest is you get yourself a Bible, King James Bible, right? And you honestly approach it, asking God if he's there to show you if the book is real and if his will is there and all that kind of stuff, And so I did that, and I didn't understand a lot of it, but I came away with a couple things. One was I came away with the Holy Spirit speaking to me. That's how I describe it now, that yes, indeed, the words of life are in there. And that in John 14:16, Jesus talks about, I'm going to leave and I'm going to give you the Holy Spirit, and he's going to lead you into all truth, right? So I claim those promises too. So whenever I would read the Bible or go to a church to figure it out, what's going on, or any of that kind of stuff, I would always ask God, okay, Lord, please show me what the deal is here, and inspire my mind so I know what truth is. I don't want to, and guide my path, right? And I've been doing that all through my life. And I would say that for any, baby Christian or whatever you want, a lot of new Christians actually, or people trying to figure out what's going on because of COVID, it's remarkable. And, the Christians, a lot of them, they went and fell for everything. And yet these people who are, I guess you would say the harlots and the prostitutes and the tax collectors of the world, they're all waking up and saying, what in the world's going on here? And they're standing their ground and saying, no, we're not going to go along with all of this. There's a nice big bird outside. Oh, he's a cutie. But yeah, so that's how it's been for me. And, like I remember back when they were doing the Paris Accord and even the television. I got rid of the television back then. So I'd go to my parents and there would be commercials on, and you could see that there's this whole thing, they have a child walking the globe, and they're saying we're all connected, we're all, humanity and all this kind of stuff. And I could see the rise of this globalist power leading towards what the Bible would, just would show or indicate as some kind of, new world order situation in which in Revelation 13 that no man could buy or sell. And so the power structure was very getting consolidated and pyramidal. And I watched all that. And then in 1992, they're talking about on the news that there's this new Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, and I figured that's going to be, I just had a gut feeling that that's going to be a big one, And Brian Mulroney was the conservative so-called Prime Minister of Canada, and he signed on to it. And I didn't find out till, years later that actually Agenda 21, the United Nations agenda for the 21st century, was unveiled there, and Canada was signed on to it. And we, if people want to know about Agenda 21, you can search it out. My YouTube channel, actually just type in my name, Ron Vaillant, and a YouTube search, on YouTube, and you'll see my smiling face. And just don't click on my face, click on my name, and I'll take you to the channel. And if you hit videos, it'll have the videos as they were in chronological order, the latest one being at the top. But you can also do a search for Ron Vaillant UNDRIP or Ron Vaillant UN Agenda 2030, 21. And there's all kinds of videos there talking about it. So I've been, in this game a long time, watching things, 9/11 really was a surprise to me. John, my buddy, phones me up and says, "Oh, turn on your TV." And I did actually have a TV for 3 years then. And I had a fuzzy picture because I was living out in the country, like preparing. I was preparing in the 90s. I built a home and I was preparing for the apocalypse,
Your underground bunker and all that kind of stuff in there.
Well, no. Actually, I was funny. In 1987, I was in BC helping frame a house, and Black Monday came, I think it was, or whatever. Or was it Black Friday, Black Monday? The stock market was crashing. I said, "Oh no, I'm not ready yet." I only owned, a car and some tools, I sold all my audio gear, because all of the negative influences of what I was listening to, like the Twisted Sister and all that stuff. But yeah, so I've been in this game a long time. I've been challenged, with different viewpoints and everything else. And so I'm very settled into where I'm at. And so I can't gauge, spiritual reality by someone else's experience. If someone else says, I did that and it didn't work for me, it has no influence, because I've had a personal experience all through the time where God's still small voice is saying, okay, Ron, that's not a good idea to do that, and I, okay. And if I didn't do it, and if I didn't hear it, and I get myself in trouble and get a spanking, kind of, that's how I call it. God allows you to get a spanking, like a,
spiritual spanking.
Yeah. Like my dad would do, if I was out of line too far, I and I got strapped lots in school too. Many times. One time I was bugging a kid, I guess I was a bully too. I didn't like bullies. I hated bullies, but there was one kid I think I was a bully to. And it was grade 6, and Hugh Rigney, he was a rough, character. He ended up becoming the principal actually, but we had a test and Michael didn't do well on the test. And I said, "What's the matter, Michael? You don't like your test?" And then, Hugh Rigney, he saw that and he pulls me up in front of the class. There's all these desks in a circle, eh? And he just laid into me and I said, whack, 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 and I asked a girl afterwards on the school bus, I said, "How many times did he strap me?" I think about 10 times, and every time he hits you, you flinch back. But he strapped me a couple times, but so, I mean, I wasn't that bad of a kid, but, I just, like to do stuff. But anyhow, so I guess at this point, I don't know, that's enough of my story, I guess. But is there any questions, that you have, or because at this thing with, it was brought up, and the question you asked about in the roundtable was about the monotheistic religion being very dogmatic, that you have to do this, you have to believe in Jesus to be saved, and if you don't, you get judged, and all this other kind of stuff. And I want to kind of address that because the way I look at it, I see mankind as fallen, and there's different viewpoints, and where you start is a big difference. There's people who believe that when we're born in light and love, right? And then we're in this fallen world and things go bad. Or the biblical view would be that we're with Adam and Eve having been fallen, that's in our genetics, epigenetics, and we're messed up right from the get-go, and we need a savior, right? There's that. And there's also this issue of the story of the Garden of Eden, when basically Lucifer is, put in, takes over the snake. And the snake back then would be not the snake that slithers on the ground now. It was a beautiful winged flying serpent, I guess you'd say, just probably glorious. And then he says to Eve, "Yea, hath God said, if you shall eat of this tree, that you will die?" And she says yes. And he says, then he puts in the doubt, basically saying that you're not going to die, for in the day that you eat thereof, you will know that you are God's, basically, right? And really that's a whole nother thing now. So basically you can have two views. You can have a biblical view that what was done is kind of just actual fact, that the benevolent God who created us was the one who said, don't eat of that. It was a test for humanity, a probationary test. And man fell, and now he has a plan of salvation for us. Or like the Matrix or whatever, that well, it's not, I forget the name of it, but it's actually where it's flipped and around. It's an inversion where basically the God that's in the Bible is actually the bad God, and Lucifer is the good God. And that Lucifer is trying to get us to see our potential as a higher self, that we are actually truly gods, but we're in this physical prison grid, and to keep us away from that. Okay. So there's different, where people start on these different things is going to indicate where you might end up in your thinking, right? So myself, I take it, at face value to the degree that, the God who created everything is the God of the Bible, and mankind has now fallen. And the only way that we can actually be fit to continue on throughout eternity without killing each other, right, is that we actually, I recommend everyone read this. I don't care what you believe, if you're an atheist like I professed, but with a sincere heart and just an open mind, and asking if this is true or not. Read just the 3rd chapter of the book of John, because Nicodemus was one of the ruling elite in part of the Sanhedrin, and he goes to Jesus by night because he doesn't want to be seen, because he'd get crucified almost, But so he goes to him by night, and then Jesus gets right into him. He says, like, you have to be born again if you're going to enter into the kingdom of heaven. And he says, well, how can we be born again? Do we enter the second time into a mother's womb? And he says, look, I'm telling you earthly things, and and how is it that you're part of the Sanhedrin, like you're a leader in Israel, and you don't know these simple things, and so that to me is the whole purpose. Like, the reason why Christianity is dogmatic and saying that you have to believe in Jesus in order to be saved is that puts you through a process of being born again, of changing you. And when it's really, you're surrendering yourself to God. You are baptizing yourself, so that was a true, honest surrender to God, right, in your mind. And I bet you, if you look back on it, you would still do the same thing. You, in a sense, like you knew that
100%. That was a big moment in my life.
Yeah. So you are completely surrendering yourself to the God that is out there that you don't really know, but we're all trying to figure it out, right? And actually, Buttar, Dr. Buttar, he said that his son was vaccine injured and he was fearful for his life, and he did the same thing. He says, and he did the prayer,
What you did with the
yeah,
with
he
the
did
with
the
the
Hail
pregnant
Mary
thing.
prayer, like, I mean, there's no other way out. And then he says, look, Lord, if I don't know, who you are, but if you make it so he's going to live, I will serve you. And I believe that even though he doesn't believe in Christ as, like he sees him as a prophet or whatever through Islam, because he said he's Islamic. But I can see by his fruits, by their fruits you shall know them, that he actually has the fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, meekness, kindness, right? Against such there is no law. And and he stood his ground even to his death. He was so ardent in doing what he felt that God was telling him to do that he died for it, right? And so the bottom line to me is that we need to be born again, however that's going to be. So there's going to be people in Africa who've never heard of Christianity or Jesus or anything else like that. But in Genesis, God says that my spirit will not always strive with man's. There's going to be a point when it ends, but the Holy Spirit is speaking to everyone everywhere. So a person who's in Africa, doesn't know anything about Christianity or whatever, responds to the Holy Spirit like you did, like Buttar did, like I did, and his life, as he cooperates and as he walks in the light that he has, new truth comes and he walks in it. And and everyone falls and stumbles, and like we all mess up, right? But but there's a process of change that really happens. And so a person like that, like, I'm not the judge, God's the one who figures things out, but from my perspective, I think that person who does that, just like Buttar, to the very end, and wholly trusts in God and knows that God is love and all these kind of things, will be in a good place, I think. So it's not a works-based thing, because we can't work our way to heaven. I don't see that. It has to be. It's a gift. God gives us the gift of eternal life, and it's only when we totally surrender ourselves to God. And okay, we're at 1:51. It's going to be 2:00. Is going to be the end.
I have to go
Okay,
by
yeah.
2.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I'll just wrap it up.
Hospital.
So what we're facing now in the end time events, biblically speaking, I mean, that's how I see it. Because we came very close to the point where people couldn't even buy groceries in Eastern Canada at some places unless they got vaccinated, right? And I see things wrapping up on Earth. I think that the second coming is very close, and that his main priority is to save as much as possible. I don't believe everyone's going to be saved. Biblically speaking, if you do a study, you find out that's how it is, and that's how I see it. But
that's those that interpret the Bible at that time believes that not everyone's going to be saved.
Yeah, like I said, if I read the Bible or if I talk to someone, I guess I shouldn't say talk to people, but if I go to new churches or anything or new material, I always ask God to show me what the truth of the matter is. And consistently throughout these, I don't know what's it been now, 38 years, it's been, conclusive to me that the Bible is what it is. So that's where I can only go by my experience. And, but anyhow, I see this whole thing wrapping up. People think that we're going to go ahead and rise up and beat what's coming. What's coming is a powerhouse that, is unbelievable. Just think of all of the politicians on the take or just going along to get along. And we're not going to beat it. We can maybe fight it back, get some time or something, but God has his timeline too. But I see, like with COVID, there's so many new people questioning and wondering what's going on. They've been awakened to the evil in the world. And as we look forward, we can see basically that we're talking about a digital currency, a prison grid, financial collapse, maybe another, pandemic thing that's going on. And, it's just going to get worse. And it's going to get radically worse, I think, exponentially, And it's going to be a situation where everyone's going to be people who trust in their money, people who trust in their status. All these things are going to be shaken to the core. And the reason why a God of love is allowing this to happen is because he's going to be wrapped up. He's going to call it quits, and Jesus was going to return, and that's it. Time out. It's over, and everything will be. That's a whole nother discussion. But the point I'm trying to make here is that myself, I think it's going to get a lot worse. We have a reprieve right now. We're kind of, enjoying that, but I see things just getting worse and worse. And then if you go to my YouTube channel in the shorts, watch this video. It is, it's Alice A. Bailey. And Alice A. Bailey was a New Ager for the a priestess or whatever for the UN in the 50s. And she says from 1957 till 2025, great changes will happen. But in 2025, it'll be the, what is it? The manifestation of the hierarchy. So the hierarchy would be the spiritual entities that are really running the world. So 2025 could be quite a wild time. And you might see spaceships and aliens and all kinds of crazy stuff. And the world religion's all going to come together. And if you don't go along with the herd, just like the COVID thing has preconditioned us, you have to go along with the herd. Otherwise, you're going to be really outcast.
You're going to be kung fu fighting.
Well, if things get worse and you're in a hard place, turn to God and let God, let that, just like we did, we surrendered ourselves to God and listened to that still small voice. And, because
God guides my way. And that's it.
Yeah,
and
good.
I don't need a Bible to tell me what it is.
No,
I'm learning more. I'm researching more. I'm having a lot of Bible discussions. We're having Bible panels. I'm doing things to research more of it. But it's your heart that guides the way. You have been given the gift of discernment. You know the difference between right or wrong. Just choose wisely, because I believe choices do matter. Aaron's got a question here for you. Question: because God is the all in all in Ephesians 4:6, is it pleasing to God to consent to anything being ungodly? Question mark. How can the body of the bride of Christ justify our failure to reconcile all things to God through Christ? And that's 2 Corinthians 5:18.
We only got like a minute and a half left or something. Fundamentally, I would say that people need to, the people who know or whatever, to search out Christ, because that is where you're going to have your born again experience, right? And then you surrender to God. The reason I just bring up the contrarian point of people not, knowing about it and still being saved, it's a controversial thing, I suppose, but that's how I view it, because ultimately in the end, it's God changing us so that we can be fit. Because ultimately, and you'll agree with this, is that love is the governing power of the universe. And on this earth, as we are selfish, and selfishness is not love, and perfect love casts out all fear. Like Buttar says, I have no fear. So, so he has got to the point where he was willing to go as far as he did to even die for it and not have fear. And so that to me is a fruit of the Spirit. And so I don't know. I mean, that's kind of a loaded question, and we don't have any time, but
we'll bring you back. We'll have you another panel. We'll do that again. In not this Friday, but next Friday, we're going to do another panel, but it's going to be on targeted individuals. I think we're going to do our next one. So we've interviewed a bunch of people that feel that they've been targeted in one way or another. So we're going to bring a panel of them and just see how that goes.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to be speaking in Victoria. There's a really big, it's the biggest freedom conference in Canada, they call it. I can send you actually a little thing on it. You can maybe post it on your Facebook so people can see. There's going to be all kinds of players from all across Canada going there. And, but I was going to say something else, but I forgot. Oh, well.
It's okay, brother. We got to wrap this up.
Yeah.
I gotta get going.
Yeah.
So I just put in your post. So maybe you can tell people about your YouTube channel and your Facebook and how they can contact you.
Yeah, it's just basically under my name, Ron Vaillant. So maybe take a screenshot or write it down. And the YouTube channel, look at the shorts. There are really some good stuff in there. And then if you want to learn about how we're going to lose our land, actually we're losing it right now in the sense of legally, and that's through UNDRIP. There's videos on there. In the shorts, there's one video on UNDRIP. It's just 1 minute long. And then if you go actually and go into the video section, look for about 4 or 5 months ago. It's an old UNDRIP meeting. Go to about 20 minutes and start there. And I describe what's going on. And then there's another one that's really important because it's proof of what's going on with UNDRIP. And that is 3 Indian bands that claimed all the land under Vancouver. And so it's Vancouver, there's new owners for your land or something like that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time again. Appreciate that. May the source be with you, or may God be with you, whatever you like to hear, the way you like to hear it. Always a pleasure to learn from you, and love that you're, kind of making people aware of what's politically going on. That's really important.
Just like guitar, like, I mean, I can't just not do anything to fight evil, right? So
of course, and that's the honorable thing to do, and I think that's one of the most highest of high in this experience, is to live in honor, to feel like you're an honorable, righteous.
Well, all you can take with you is your integrity, your character, and history will, record what you've done. So.
Awesome, brother. We've got tomorrow, we've got another Christian friend of mine, a really good friend. He's a firm born-again Christian, very rooted in his beliefs. He's been targeted by law enforcement. They murdered his dog. He's been having quite a bumpy ride, especially of late, because he can't just sit quiet what they're doing to the kids, how they've been attacking the kids, and he goes off. Like, he doesn't hold any punches. He's not one of those guys that he grew up very rough, and he come from a very well-off family, so he's got money to fight the law enforcement and all these things. So he's been battling up and down, and it's been quite a bumpy ride for him, especially of his late. But he's got a good heart. He's constantly helping people everywhere he can, and he's going to share some of his story, I believe. It's raining in Edmonton, yay! God bless the rain for Edmonton. That's what we need.
The former and the latter rain.
Yeah. So that's tomorrow on the Missing Link. That's tomorrow evening. So that's going to be a late one. And that's, I believe at like 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Mountain. And we just keep going here on the Missing Link, educating anybody that's willing to listen about all kinds of different things. I think, people say, don't talk about religion, don't talk about politics. That's because they don't want people talking about religion or politics. Where, it's good to have healthy conversations.
Yeah, live and let live. I mean, everyone has free will. I mean,
free will is what we want, natural law, and that's why I really align with Jake and his work and stuff. So, but again, thanks everybody for all your likes, comments, hearts, shares, and stars. We appreciate all of your love and support. We'll be back here tomorrow on the Missing Link, and we'll see you next time we see you. Love you all, and thanks a lot, Ron. May the source be with you all, everybody. Bye, everyone.
Bye.